Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about shamanic healing and how you can benefit from it. Hello, this is Berto and this is my channel where I share my journey as a shaman practitioner. And today we are shifting our focus to another aspect of shamanism called shamanic healing. And we're going to talk about how it works and why you should try it for yourself. Let's get into it. Shamanic healing is one of the most useful practice for us as practitioner. It's basically healing the energetic part of yourself before some of this negative energy manifests itself physically. You can think of it this way. You are made up of layers and layers of bodies. And the most obvious part is the physical body, which is the most dense or the most real part of you. Then there are other bodies on the side, like your intellectual or your emotional body. And then there is still something that's outside of your normal physical body. And for now, we can call it an energetic body, or in our tribe, we call it the shamanic body. You can think of it as the biggest layer that encompasses all your other bodies, and this layer is considered healthy if everything is in harmony or in balance. But as you know, as we go through life, there would be incidents and events that would make this energy imbalance. These are situations or events like an accident or a trauma that happens when you are very young, and this leaves an imprint or a hole in your energetic body. So let's take for example if you have a hole in your throat chakra. This is a hole and that part of your energetic body that is centered on your throat. And this could be caused by some incidents, like for some reason you weren't able to express yourself, or somebody tell you to shut up, and in which case you weren't able to tell people how you feel or what you really think about the situation. And if that situation, that specific event or incident meant a lot to you emotionally, that's gonna create an imbalance on your throat chakra, and that's gonna show up in your energetic body. Now, this hole could affect you in many different ways. Sometimes it could be physically, where it turns into a sore throat, or emotionally, where you suddenly feel like you feel less and less able to speak up for yourself. Now imagine if this negativity accumulates on your throat chakra over the years. And this actually happened recently to one of my friends. So basically, we were just catching up and she was complaining about a sore throat. And of course, the first thing we thought was, maybe it was COVID and, maybe it's flu or something like that. But she tested herself and there was nothing wrong. And that's when I start to hear a slight whisper on my psyche, or there was the spirit world talking to me that maybe you should consider looking at it from an energetic point of view. That time, I didn't have my drums and my rattle with me, so I asked her a very simple question. Have you stopped yourself lately from saying something that makes you emotional? And that's where my friend stopped. And she told me that she had this trouble in her work where the new company boss was basically imposing on her, and since she's new in the company, she felt like she couldn't speak up for herself. And I know this friend for a long time. This is one of those people who wouldn't shut up about anything. And for her to shut up, that would be a very unnatural thing for her to do, and it's not really hard to imagine why that would upset her very much. And by the logic of the shamanic healing perspective, it's not really very hard to imagine why that kind of negative energy will turn into a sore throat for her. And again, during the time, I'll go like, okay, I don't have my drums with you, but can you just try speaking up for yourself at work? Gather the courage to actually express yourself. Find an avenue, and if you can't do it in public, maybe you should talk to your boss on one-on-one basis. Unfortunately, my friend listened, and she did exactly what I said. And one fine night, she just called me and she said, "Oh my God, your tip really works. Suddenly my throat got better." And then we start to go into this conversation where I explained to her the very same thing that I'm explaining to you now. There is a connection between energy and negativity and your physical body. And I guess my friend is lucky that way, that I was there to provide her an insight, which was very helpful at the moment. And for me, it was because I got guidance from the spirits. But then again, I couldn't really say the same thing about a lot of people. After all, how many shamans, healers, therapists, or even coaches are going around giving tips to their friends on a daily basis? And this is where going to somebody might be really, really helpful for you. So, in my case, the way I heal people is through shamanic healing. And really, the first use of shamanic healing is to gain insight on what is plaguing you energetically. This is where the shamanic diagnosis comes in, where the shaman would really look into your energy patterns and see what's going on in there. And this part is really useful for people who want to take charge of their own personal development. They have the right tools and they have some guidance for doing so. So to illustrate, this happened to one of my clients. This one is a very strong and driven young man who actually made a lot of fortune, even as a young college student. He tried shamanic healing out of curiosity, and I told him, well, if that's the case, let's keep it open. Don't tell me what your problem is so that it does not also bias the way I would diagnose your problem. And in my experience in shamanic healing, it's better to keep it open. Shamanic healing will often show what is ready to be dealt with, both from an energetic perspective and also from the capacity of the person who is trying to get the healing from you. And some shamans will call it this way. Sometimes your subconscious, your soul, or even the universe would actually know better than your conscious mind, meaning your intellectual side, on what you really need at the moment. My tip to you, if you are trying to get your first shamanic healing, just relax. Let it surface naturally and take what comes up at the moment. Or like what we always say in our tribe, keep yourself open. Now, going back to my client, so we started the ritual and we diagnosed his energy first. And not surprisingly, I found that his shoulder area is very tight. And in my experience doing shamanic healing over the years, my clients who have this tight shoulder would often be somebody who is a breadwinner, or somebody who's very hard on themselves, or somebody who usually takes on a lot of responsibilities for themselves. So again, I asked my spirits guide, like, what is this about? I can sense it. And then what I got was another message, and they said, this young man is taking himself too seriously. So after the diagnosis, I asked him, are you that person who takes himself too seriously? And then he laughed and he said that yes, it's true. It comes from a lot of expectations he thought was imposed to him by his father. And so I told him, okay, we can loosen that energy up so that you can, enjoy your life a little bit more. So I told him, like, have fun, you're still very young and you have a lot of money for a young person, so why don't you enjoy some of that? So later on, I went to the next phase of my shamanic healing, which is the drum healing. Now, drum healing is really meant to clear off the energy of your body and remove all the negativity that's been lingering there for a long time. And what happens to me as a healer is that I go into a light trance and I start to just see more things, hear more things, feel more things. But my clients are relaxing the whole time. I guess at this point, he already relaxed, knowing that, there was some form of resonance between me and him, and that we can work together on something that might be of value to him. But what happened was, towards the end of the healing, I started to see animal symbols, and then I saw a snake. And it had a fang, and the fang had dripping on it. So the message I thought I got was something like a poison. But then again, as a shamanic healer, I don't want to assume that I understand what that means. So I work with my client and try to understand what does that mean in his world. And surprisingly, he answered something that surprised me as a healer. He was like, oh, that sounds like my major. And I was like, what major? And he was like, I'm actually a toxicologist. So apparently this young guy is studying poison. And I go like, okay, so what was that about? And he goes like, oh, actually one of the things that was bothering me that I never mentioned earlier was whether or not he would continue doing his side gig, which is earning him quite a lot of money, or continue doing his studies as a toxicologist. And then again, I go like, okay. So I honestly felt pressured, like, is he asking me to decide for him or what? And then I asked for guidance from my spirit guides again, and the message I got was, just ask him if this is something that he really likes. And I go like, okay. I ask him, like, is this something you like? Because honestly, in my experience, I explained to him that things don't surface in a shamanic healing by random. There is a message for it for you. And then he told me, like, even though he thought he will earn less from being a toxicologist, he actually enjoyed the practice. And I go like, then you got your answers, right? If the universe and the spirit is telling you to look into this direction, then maybe you should look at why you really like it and if this is something that you really would like to proceed with. And then he said, yes, I actually just confirmed what he was been thinking about for the longest time. And he was very, very thankful that finally he can put that decision to rest and he can continue doing his studies. And later on, he will just say, I will just decide whether or not this side gig is something that worth pursuing to help him support himself financially. Then later on, after several years, I actually heard that he stopped doing his side gig and he just continued with his medicine practice. So yeah, basically, that's it. That's how shamanic healing is able to help him in that very instance. And there are many other ways where shamanism can actually help you. And later on, after the shamanic session, this client and another client that I was healing at the same time invited me to go to a spa later, and they treated me so that we can take the afternoon off just relaxing. And internally, I was just smiling to myself because I go like, this guy didn't realize that the healing already started for him. Remember, I told you earlier that he was a very uptight person, and then immediately he goes and, why don't I start with a small step? Relax this afternoon. And that actually shifted his energy, and we ended the day with him and my other client having a very, very good time. So I hope in this story you can see that the healing will ultimately come from you. It's actually not from me. My job is to stand back and let you do your own healing. I provide the energy, I provide the space, I connect with the spirit so that you can get your guidance. But the solutions ultimately will come from you. And the actions that will help you along the way will ultimately come from you. And my hope really is that someday you can become your own healer. You will learn ways to support your own path to healing, and you become a much, much better person. As a modern shaman, I'm here to help you begin that path for yourself and to help people along the way whenever you need a lift or a boost. And I always tell my friend that think of me as your shaman like a spotter in a gym. I'll give you the weights, but you'll have to do the heavy lifting yourself. But when the weight becomes too heavy, for example, when you're doing 10 repetition and you're on your 9th or your 10th repetition and you can't lift it, and that's where you call me. That's where I can help lift you up for a little bit so that you can finish what you need to do, or you can finish what you have started. So really, you can think of shamanic healing as a booster for yourself. But before that, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe so you can learn more about modern shamanism as a practice that can make your life a little bit more magical every day. And that's really all I wanted to say about healing. It's a very rewarding practice, and it's one of the main reasons why I enjoy being a shaman. But again, like what we always say in our channel, don't take our word for it, try it for yourself. And that's all folks, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on our next one. Bye!